QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop 2022 OneNote Presentation, Company Preferences, Accounting. Well, let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop 2022. If you have access to OneNote, would like to follow along, icon, left-hand side, topic introductions, 6080, company preferences, accounting. Also note, take a look at the immersive reader tool, topic introductions, also in the text area. Same name, same number, but with transcripts. Transcripts that can be translated into multiple languages, either listened to or read in them. Same name and number as a presentation as well. Topic introductions designed to give an introduction to the topic, provide screenshots, links where applicable, and accounting background to complement the presentations. You can also use the screenshots to follow along with the presentations if you don't have access to the software at that time. Closing the icon on the left-hand side, we're looking at the screenshots first for the home page. We hit the drop down up top for the edit to get into the preferences all the way at the bottom. We're looking at the preferences now, looking at the accounting tab on the left hand side. My preferences or company preferences. We're looking at company preferences tab up top. We have the use account numbers, which is off by default. If you want to check on it and turn it on, that gives you a little bit more control over the ordering of the accounts. So that could be useful. We're going to keep it off by default now because it is a little bit more complicated to look into. We look into account numbers more in a future presentation as we concentrate on how you can put those in place in and of themselves. We got the required accounts on by default. Use class tracking for transactions. This is a specialized area. We have some courses on them that you could take a look at because they could be used for different specialized areas. Automatically assign general journal entry numbers on by default. Warn when posting a transaction to retained earnings on by default. Warn if transactions are 90 days in the past. Warn if transactions are 30 days in the future. Both those on by default. If you're working in real time, those are usually good things to have on. Set date password, date through which books are closed. So when you close the books, it might be useful to set it that it has been closed so that you're less likely to enter things in the past, which could kind of mess up your books going forward after that period had been closed. This is going to be then the chart of accounts. This is noting that there are no account numbers at this point in time. You can get here by going to the lists drop down, then the chart of accounts. And so if you turned on account numbers, you'd have then the numbers on the left-hand side. So we're back to the preferences here that we went through in some depth. If you turned on the class tracking, note this is an invoice. You don't see any form down here or item with relation to the class tracking. If you turned on class tracking, you have the class tracking item here. That's why it's kind of off by default because you might not use it all the time and it adds a bit level of complexity to the invoices and other data input forms that might not be necessary unless you're actually using the class tracking. So here's the icon to set the closing date. So you can see how you could basically set the closing date and have the options for the closing dates and who might have then authority to adjust transactions that are prior to that point in time.